Hello and welcome back to the second video of our tutorial series for Virtual Battlespace 2. Hopefully you have watched our introduction video and have gotten the introduction and the overview of VBS2. What we're going to do today is we're going to go through our VBS2 administrator, and we're going to talk about the splash screen in the main menu. And once we are through with that, we will start getting into building scenarios and continuing from there. So as you can see on my DVT machine, I'm logged in under instructor mode here, and I locate my VBS2 VTK administrator icon, double click on it to open it up. And then looking here, we get this little bar pop up, and it's got check boxes in it, and it just lets you know that it's loading properly. Keep in mind that this process does generally take a few minutes, so we're going to go ahead and just be patient and let it load all the way up to the splash screen. Okay, so now we are loaded up into the main splash screen here, VBS2 VTK. If you look in the lower left hand corner, you're going to see the version, and we are currently on 1.4047. As you're watching this video, that number may change. You might be at version 1.32, or you could be up higher than 1.40. If that's the case, don't worry too much about it. This is just going to be an overview into what VBS can do and everything like that. If there's options in here that I am pressing on that you don't have, again, don't worry about it. There just might be some different variations of things in the newer versions. So if you are at 1.32 or anything before 1.4, I do recommend that you go contact your DVT representatives, let them know that you are running an earlier version of VBS2, because more than likely you're running earlier versions of a lot of the other programs too, so they can come out and they can go ahead and upgrade all of your computers. So for starters here, we have our login. We've got the profile. Mine is set to DVTE. If you click on this, you can select a player, which is actually just the profile. You can select anyone that's already here, or let's say we wanted to create a new one. We could create a new one. We can change the username. You can change the face. You can change the voice. You can do this stuff, but realistically, a lot of that stuff is just for for the game side, the commercial version of VBS2, not for the military side. So most of that stuff you don't really need to mess with, just maybe a username for specific missions or scenarios that you're creating. Here we also have colors right here, and what these are going to be armbands that would go around your particular character within the simulation. It kind of works for maybe running a squad scenario and you have 3 teams that are going 3 different directions. It kind of takes away some of the confusion in the initial beginning of the scenarios, where the guys don't know exactly what team they're in. You could put these armbands on them, and they could all show up as a group. It's not really needed, but it's something that's kind of an added effect. On the left hand side here is where all of our buttons are. So we start off, we have training scenarios. This is a series of 3 videos plus, or 3 scenarios plus a 4th one. It kind of gets into insurgent mindset training. But these training scenarios go through all of the basic controls. They usually take about 15 to 20 minutes to complete, maybe a little bit longer depending on the person. But you can run through the training scenarios. It teaches you how to move forward, back, left, right, how to lay down, how to stand up, how to maneuver through obstacles, things like that. So if you haven't ever done it, or if you have someone coming in who has never done it, we do recommend they go through the training scenarios. The next button is networking, and the networking button is the one that we use most often here. You can also use Mission Editor to do a lot of what you can do through the networking, but we like to keep it in one spot. Neither way is wrong, but for all of these tutorials we will be doing the networking side. The Mission Editor, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a mission editor. You can go in, you create your missions in there that you can also create through networking. So either one of these buttons will be okay. After action review is exactly how it sounds. During your scenarios or your simulations, you can record the the movements of the players and their actions during combat or anything like that. And you can, once that scenario is over with, you stop the recording, you save it, and then you could go into this after action review and preview it, and you can show it back to the guys who had done their training, and have tips and pointers for them and things like that. And it's stuff that we're going to get into later on in the series, and we'll go through a very thorough after action review on how to do it and how to get it displayed back and everything like that. We have the library, which contains everything within VBS2 as far as weapons and vehicles and anything along those lines. It's kind of a tutorial on what each weapon is, what it's capable of, and it also gives you an opportunity to use them, to shoot them at targets and to do various things with them. And the same thing goes for the vehicles, aircraft, ships, things like that. So you could go through the library and you can preview anything that's there, and then you can use it and take a little tutorial and take some tests with them and get good at it if you desired. And then the last thing on this list is options, and we're actually going to go into options. So go ahead and click on that, and this little options menu pops up. And within this we have video options, audio options, controls, and difficulty. So for starters, we're going to click on video options. Now the video options are set to a default, pretty standardized throughout. If you wanted to change them, you could. We have this terrain distance here. You can take that all the way up to 10,000. Now with that, what happens is you actually lose a little bit of the quality of the gameplay. So you would end up in a situation where if you have it out to 10,000 on all the computers, you may experience lag, and that's not always the case, but just keep in mind that it is a possibility. We usually like to keep it right around 3,000, maybe a little bit better. As far as the display brightness and gamma correction, those are standard. Wouldn't really mess with them, but you can kind of see what they can give you. And then in the resolution, we like to keep it at 1024 by 768. It's a crisp resolution. It keeps everything clean. It keeps it simple. When you start getting into some of the bigger resolutions, you start to slow things down a little bit. Aspect ratio in the full screen mode is 4.3 normal. I would leave it at that, and then you don't really have an option on the refresh rate. If you click on advanced, we open that up, and it gives you a little bit more that you can kind of mess with in here. You have terrain detail, objects detail, texture, shading, post-process effects, anisotropic filtering, shadow detail, anti-aliasing, blood, and object draw distance. We usually keep these all at the default. You can change them if you like. We don't recommend it though. The object draw distance, however, I believe it starts at like 1200, and we do usually take that up to 3000. And that's just basically going to be if there's a tank out there at 3000 meters, we're going to be able to see it from our view. If it's anything less than that, it's not that we may not be able to see it, but it may not be very visible to us at anything beyond what our object draw distance is. And then we also have this default button here. We can click this and reset all the settings back to default if we've messed with them and it's interrupted gameplay somehow. So we go into audio options here. We have effects, radio, and voiceover network boost. We don't mess with the audio options ever, but they are here if you did want to mess with them and change them, see what they would do for you. As far as the controls go, we have all the controls set up in here. Moving forward, moving backward, you can change them as you see, but keep in mind that you might get people from different units coming through and they're used to default controls, and if you've changed it, it's going to become a learning curve for them. So we do like to keep them at default, but if you wanted to, you could change them. And last, we have difficulty, and usually in difficulty we keep most of it standard, but there are a few that we change. If you scroll down, you'll end up in you'll see one says AI voices, and the AI voices is enabled by default. And what this is if you have AI around your characters and the AI is talking, it's going to come across the computer speakers, and it can get very obnoxious. So we do like to disable those, so go ahead and do that now. And another one we like to disable is this realistic fatigue, especially for training and things like that. It's not something that is required. It's kind of a pain in the butt when you're dealing with a guy who's getting tunnel vision because he's been running for too long or something. It takes away from some of the training, in my opinion. In other people's opinions, does not. And if you are one of them, please leave it on enabled and have a good day with that. So we hit OK here. And that is all we have for this first video, as far as learning the splash screen, going over the buttons, and learning how to change your login and change the color of the armbands. So thank you very much and have a good day.